Hello, everybody. Welcome to our podcast. We're the uncle and the carbuncle. Today, we're going to talk about some possible free agents and what the needs and the moves might be for the local teams. I'm going to let my partner Christian start.
The 2020 free agent class is filled with talent such as Anthony Rendon, Garrett Cole, Didi Gregorius, Castellanos, and Madison Bumgarner, to name a few, as well as World Series MVP Steven Strasburg. So we could go one by one by these, but there is quite a few, so that'll take a while. But the biggest moves, I think the two key people to keep an eye on is Rendon and Garrett Cole because they're coming off very solid seasons. Rendon's coming off he was a Cy Young candidate this year, and also Rendon's coming off a top three season in the MVP voting, which both of those could be blockbusters. Rendon, I'm scared that he'll go to the Yankees, to be completely honest. Me as a Mets fan, I would hate to see Rendon in pinstripes. He is just so good, and he will take the Yankees to that extra step up they needed and to that they didn't have to get past Houston this year. LeMahieu for the Yankees has been good, and their infield could possibly be Rendon at third, Gleyber Torres at short, or Didi. It could be one of the few, but Didi's also a free agent, so we'll see what happens about that. LeMahieu at second, or they could even put LeMahieu at first, and then they could just figure something out. Could be Luke Voigt at first. He's a solid player.
Yeah.
So I would hate to see him to the Yankees. Will he sign Washington again? Probably not. I don't think he will, to be completely honest, because I just think he's been there. Doesn't want to stay, most likely. He won a World Series. Old news. And Garrett Cole, everyone's saying that. So they're just naming teams that he'll go to, but to be completely honest, I think he'll want to stay with Houston a little longer. I think he'll stay with Houston and give it another go. See him, Verlander, they'll both stay and go at it again.
Interesting. I don't I don't see the Yankees going after Rendon. In my opinion, it wouldn't make sense to them. They have enough hitting in the infield. Um, I think they're going to go after starting pitching. And the guy I think they're going to go after, and it's a guy, personally, I don't like the guy, but he's a talent, is Madison Bumgarner. I mean, a lefty pitching at Yankee Stadium who's got a little bit of an edge to him. I think he can have a long career there. And if you look at his numbers for the last 2 or 3 years, he's had some injuries and he hasn't won a lot of games because the team hasn't been good. But his ERA was pretty good, actually. So I think he's got a lot left in the tank. I believe he's only 32. Um, and if I were the Yankees, I would certainly make a run at him. Garrett Cole, it seems to me, I know you mentioned you think he might stay with Houston. I don't see that. I mean, he seemed to divorce himself from Houston the day after the World Series was over when he said, I'm not on Houston anymore. Um, so, Southern California kid, I mean, it would make sense that he would go to the Angels or the Dodgers. I think the Angels make the most sense. They really need to get their pitching in order. Mike Trout is wasting his career over there. It seems to me that the Angels, even though Adi Moreno has been averse to it, I think they'll overpay for him if they have to. It's not something that the Dodgers have been doing, although this offseason might be different. They're going to lose Ryu, and they're going to lose Hill probably. So they're going to need a big time starting pitcher. I just, Friedman hasn't been his history to go after big money free agents. However, after winning 7 division titles, but nothing else, they've been to the World Series twice. They didn't even make the World Series this year. So I think they need to do something. I think they need to make a splash. So would Cole be that smash? Maybe. I don't know if he would. If they would agree to the years that he's going to want. They would agree to maybe lesser years or more money per, but I don't think they'll give him the years. I heard some rumors about Rendon going there and moving Turner to first. I guess they could do that. I don't know if that's something they'd want to do. Tie up that much money. I think Rendon turned down 7 years, $210 million from Washington. So if he's looking for more dough than that, and or a similar amount of years, I don't see that coming from LA. In terms of the Yankees, they made two great signings last year. They signed LeMahieu and they signed Ottavino, and they both worked out great for them. The question is, do they re-sign Didi Gregorius? Um, I think a case can be made for letting him walk, letting Glaber play shortstop, and investing that money in starting pitching. And I think they'll get two starting pitchers. I think they'll get or make a run at Baumgartner, and I think they'll make a run at someone else. I don't think it'll be Cole, but I think they'll make a run at someone else. And I think they'll shore up their starting pitching and go to war. I think that's what they're going to do. In terms of your New York Mets, I think I think they got to get a closer. I don't think they can count on Diaz. I think they need to get him right. Maybe they'll use him as a setup man initially, but I don't think you can go into spring training with Diaz as your closer based on last year. I mean, he cost you a playoff spot. There's no other way to say it. What do you think?
Well, I personally think they could make Seth Lugo their closer because he's
Maybe.
a very good
I
pitcher.
like Lugo.
I do too. He's a great person, great player. Diaz they could use in some low stress situations until they get him right, as you said.
Mm.
And maybe when he is right, maybe if Lugo is not liking the closing role, move Diaz back, but that's a little risky, as you
Mm.
could see from this season, obviously. And
Yeah.
they could go. There's not that many starting closing pitchers, but they have some solid pitchers in their farm system. They have a few solid people, but the only thing is they're young. They're gonna need more experience. They need. I think their top pitching prospect is like 20 years old right now, something like that.
Mm.
And the only person who's 20 years old or around that is like MLB ready. Obviously Bueller on the Dodgers
Mm.
and Flaherty on the
Mm.
Cardinals, and those are two possible generational talents that we just don't see every day. So I don't really know if the Mets have any of those. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. But on personally, I say move Lugo to the closing role.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to do that or pick up a free agent. They don't. They traded away a lot of their trade chips. They traded a couple of good chips last year in the Diaz deal, and I don't think their farm system is that stocked. Certainly with not major league ready people. Um, they might go after a guy like San Francisco's Will Smith, who's available and is coming off a real good year. I was kind of surprised the Giants didn't trade him at the deadline. They weren't. They made some deals. Farhan made some deals, but he didn't. He had some other chips there, and relief pitchers were in demand. So I think they could have gotten some for him. Maybe they held out for too much. I don't know. But yeah, the Mets. I like Lugo. They got a couple of other guys that I think They have live arms. I don't know if they'll grow and develop into that type of a pitcher or not. But they've got a chance. They've got a chance. And you have anything to add on free agents? Any other free agents?
Steven Strasburg on the
Strasburg,
Nationals.
yeah, there's a name we may have heard before. Strasburg, who's coming off a once in a lifetime playoff series, postseason series where he couldn't be beat. He was 5-0, single handedly kept his team in playoff races. Where do we think Strasburg going? Now remember, Boris is his agent, and he's going to be looking for huge numbers. Where do we think Strasburg might go?
After the season he had, I think the Nationals are going to do everything in their power to try to keep him.
Mm.
It's really up to him where he goes. Any team would be lucky to have him.
Mm.
He'll easily go into any rotation and be a one guy, possibly a two guy, depending on what team.
Right.
Like if he went to the Mets, I would say he'd be the two guy behind DeGrom, and on your Dodgers, he'd probably be the two guy as well.
Mm.
So it's really up to him. I don't think he wants to live in Scherzer's shadow anymore, really. So I personally think he'd want to be the ace on a staff of a team that's already competing. Personally, I think St. Louis would be a great fit for him because he'd go in right away and be the ace, and then Flaherty will be the two guy, and he'll have time to develop and just get even better.
That's a great point.
So I personally think St. Louis would be a great fit for Steven Strasburg, and he could be a great influence on Flaherty as well.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, St. Louis would be a great landing spot, and I think St. Louis is going to spend some money this offseason too. They were embarrassed in the playoffs. Also, I think another possible landing spot for Strasburg are the Angels. Now, I think they'll get either him or Cole. I think they'll get one of the two. I don't know whether they can go for both. That would be over $60 million a year. They'd be committing long term
Plus the
to
Trout
pitchers.
contract.
Plus, they got Trout at over $40 million a year. I mean, that's over $100 million a year with three with three players. But I do think they'll get one of them. And they're both. I mean, Strasburg doesn't have Southern California roots, but his agent does. His agent lives in L.A. I see him at the games all the time. Well, I see him on TV at the games all the time. So I think that's another possibility. I think Didi will find a team. I don't think that'll be an issue. He's got a great track record. I think his best fit is with the Yankees, but I do think he'll find a team and he'll find a contract somewhere, if not in the Bronx.
So that's what we think. You could tell us what we think on our email,
What you think? I mean,
Uncle. What you think? My bad. At Uncle and Carbuncle, at spelled out UNCLAND Carbuncle at gmail.com, all lowercase. Tell us what you think. We'll see you in the next episode.